All right. So, throughout this presentation, I'm going to try to do this in one take because it needs to be at least 20 minutes long, and I'm not trying to edit that or render it. Doing it in one take because you can't edit a live presentation. So, here's what we got. We are doing the near miss analysis that was conducted by Green Team in 2013. The Brown LLC. So this is for the class. This class is the fall semester 2021 Safety Program Management, and that is SFTY-4143-01. So, Green Team 2013. This was their documentation of near misses, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. All right, on to the next slide. So, what company are we looking at right now? So the company that we have right now, that is Group Black, and they are based out in Las Vegas, Nevada. So what kind of company are we actually looking at? So this company is a SIC number 3715. That means that it is they deal with truck trailers, specifically manufacturing. So that description reads, establishments primarily engaged in manufacturing truck trailers, truck trailer chassis for sale separately, detachable trailer bodies, cargo containers for sale separately, and detachable trailer cargo container chassis for sale separately. So what kind of truck trailer things does that include? That could be anything from bus trailers, demountable cargo containers, motor truck trailers, semi-truck trailers, and trailers and truck trailers. All right, cool. You can read. It's all up there. Also, I have a cup of water, so if you hear me sipping, I gotta keep my whistle wet. I'm gonna be talking a lot. I'm good at talking. So, what does OSHA define as a near miss? You're gonna be hearing me saying that a lot throughout this entire presentation. So OSHA defines a near miss as an incident in which no property was damaged and no personal injury was sustained, but where, given the slight shift in time or position, damage or injury easily could have occurred. So in simple terms, it means something bad could have happened. Something bad could have happened, I should say, but it didn't through sheer luck. So, what is an example? What does this really look like? Let me visualize this for you. So, let's say that a near miss occurs whenever a warehouse worker is in the warehouse and a box falls off a shelf. It doesn't hit him or her, but it lands right next to them. So, nothing bad happened, but it had the potential to cause something bad. All right, on the next slide. So, we are going to go over the different charts that have been accumulated through the data of the near miss documentations. So we're going to be looking at the different peaks in there. We're going to be looking at the different valleys in there. And if at all possible, we're going to see if there are any trends. And believe me, spoiler alert, there is one major trend. So let's move on. So right now, these are the different types of near misses that were recorded. So right now we have mobile equipment, we have walking or working surface, falls, tool and equipment use, burns, material handling, personal protective equipment, falling parts, chemical, fire, electrical, insects, exposure to temperature, bloodborne, guarding, ergonomics, dust, line breaking, and lockout, tagout. As you can see, there is an enormous elephant in the room right here. And that's going to be a trend throughout this entire presentation. Mobile equipment. So that's going to be your loading vehicles, or normal vehicles. There were some forklifts in here too. But as we continue, this trend will sort of expose itself a lot more. So we have them organized by days of the week. These are the days in which they occurred. And so you can see that at the beginning of the week, they sort of peak out and they slowly, gradually go down. And towards the end of the week, they seem to suddenly spike. Now, allow me to elaborate on my hypothesis why this is. Well, Mondays, it's Mondays are slow. They're mundane. People are sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? They're just, used to it, I guess. They're complacent, and near misses can happen a lot. And let's say that on Saturday, everybody's geared up for the weekend. These guys must work on the weekend. So near misses can happen a lot there. They're just ready to get off work. They're not thinking about work. So what do we have next? Up next, we have the near misses organized by the month of the year in which they happened. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you take one look at September, you're thinking, what happened? Now, I had already talked to the CEO of Brown LLC, Miss Amanda Brown, and I informed her about this discrepancy here. So, without cutting too much into the presentation time, the book of documents that held all the near misses, it's used every single year by every single class since 2013, and the bindings didn't hold up, and they kind of fell out, and the September near misses kind of, well, bad things happened, essentially, and they got disorganized. I told Miss Brown about it, who's listening to this right now, and she said, just go with it. Go roll with the punches. So as you can see with this trend here, it sort of goes up in February, back down, but the second that it hits that last sort of third quarter of the year, you can see that they spike. Now, if we were to follow this chart, we can presume that the September near misses were higher. I would argue that it looks like they start to flatten out in August and October. So I would imagine that September would be right in the middle of there. All right. So what time did most of these near misses happen? So around, let's say, midnight, it looks like. It looks like it was a pretty slow day. So from about 1800 and 10 o'clock, it looks like that is where most of the near misses occur. And that's going to be a really part of that trend that I was talking about. So that's the most common time for these near misses to happen. Moving on. So group membership. Were these people involved in the near misses part of the group? That would be green team. So as we can see, there is a pretty disproportionate split between group members. So we only had 42 group members as parts of near misses, and 225 non-group member near misses. So there is that. Okay, so now we have our near misses versus our recordables. So as on top of our near misses, we also had documentation on the OSHA 300 log for the different recordables that we had. And as you can see, it's not looking good already. So in the first 5 months, we already have 5 recordables. That does not bode very well for this particular company. So let's just move on. All right, so now we're going to get into our OIR. That's going to be our OSHA incident rate. Now, how are we going to calculate the OIR? Well, that's this following formula. So we're going to take the numbers of injuries and illnesses, we're going to multiply that by 200,000, and we're going to divide that by all the hours that our employees have worked, and that's going to spit out our OIR. And right here, you can see this is a very atrocious OIR. It is, it is not looking very good at all for this company starting out already. You can see that it does kind of try to correct itself towards the end of the year. However, it's just not looking good for this company already, on top of the near misses that it's already sustained. So now we're going to do a cost analysis of all these different near misses that we have. So what are we going to be looking at? We're going to be looking at their HIRA rating, and we're also going to be looking at their descriptions. Some of these are summarizations, as well as we're going to be looking at their direct costs that they cost the company, as well as the indirect costs and the total costs that those combine into. So the first one, It should also be noted that these are going to be the top 5 worst near misses by HIRA rank. So I said at the beginning of this presentation to keep an eye out for a trend. So what is happening right now is, so these HIRAs, they started out a lot lower, and I will elaborate on that a little while after this. But so let's take a look at this first one. It's a HIRA 8, and it is classified as intolerable. So let's see what we have here. So Mr. Ronaldo was backing up his pickup truck to leave from work at 6:15 p.m. He failed to check behind him, and he almost hit his coworker, who was walking to his car. Mr. Ronaldo was reportedly on his phone during the near miss. So already we can sort of see where a lot of those mobile equipment near misses came from. And this is part of the trend that I was alluding to at the very beginning. So what did this cost the company directly? Well, we can see it cost them $25,863 in direct costs, as well as $28,449 in their indirect cost. And in total, this brings us to $54,312. So were that to happen, these cash numbers, they come from the amount of money that it would have cost a company should this injury had taken place, as opposed to it just being a near miss. So we can already see that it's not looking good. So what do we have next? Up next is a HIRA number 9, also classified as intolerable. So Mr. Brown was driving his Ford F-150 pickup truck home on the highway at 9:30 p.m. when he fell asleep. Now, he was only awoken by the rumble lines on the side of the highway, where he regained control of the vehicle and drove back into his lane. Now, let's assume that, without hitting anybody, let's assume that he suffered some injuries during this. Now, what could that have cost the company? Well, as a direct cost, that would have been about $67,003, and as a indirect cost, that would have been $73,703, totaling $140,706. So again, this is another example of a mobile equipment near miss. And so let's just see what we have next. And that was number 2. This one is our third. So again, it's another HIRA number 9, also intolerable. So around 5 o'clock p.m., while trying to merge onto the interstate immediately after leaving the turn lane, Mrs. Savoy failed to check her rear view mirrors while doing so. At 65 miles per hour, she almost hit a car that did not let her in because she didn't see it. And that would have directly cost $78,141. Indirectly, it would have cost $85,955 for a grand total of $164,096. So those numbers come from using my my best guess. If she were to cause injury and hit that car, causing injury to just Mrs. Savoy alone, that's where those numbers had come from. So we already see, if I could go back to these slides. So we see that they're on their phone, right? And on top of that, we also see another trend where they're drowsy, coming home from work tired. And again, this is another one of those trends to keep an eye out for. And so now we have complacency. And this is just my best guess. I wasn't there to actually see the near miss occur. Now, on to our next one. We have a HIRA number 12. This one is noticeably higher on the list. Intolerable. So, while walking home from work at 6 o'clock p.m., Mrs. Laird was narrowly almost hit by a car while leaving the parking lot. The driver of the other car appeared to be on their cell phone. So, this would be a direct cost, $78,141, and an indirect cost of $84,955. Grand total, $164,096. So again, we're seeing a lot of these trends where people are complacent, they're on their phone, and this doesn't even scratch the surface of all the near misses, and we're only on the fourth one, right? Given this is one of the worst ones, but there's many more like it on the list. And so let's go on to the next one. Now, another higher 12, intolerable. Now, driving on the interstate, Mrs. McAllister dozed off. See, there it is, falling asleep again. Around 5:30 p.m., she drifted into the oncoming lane, where she was awoken by the horn of an 18-wheeler. Then pulled her car back into her lane. Now, these numbers were calculated just on Mrs. McAllister's injuries alone. And let's just assume let's assume that she hit the 18-wheeler, right? Now, in that direct cost, that would have been $122,678, with an indirect cost $134,945, with a whopping total of $257,623. So already, our top 5 near misses, they're all the same, essentially, when it comes to their type and their mobile equipment. So this is something, as a safety professional, this would stick out like a sore thumb, essentially. So now let's go on to a root cause analysis. Let's see some of the things let's see if we can derive some sort of the root of the problem in this particular near miss. So right here we have a fishbone analysis. Pardon me, I'm just going to get a drink of water. So in this root cause analysis, we are using a fishbone analysis. So right now, let's take a look at what were the environmental situations she had going on. So she was driving on the highway, right? So there is a phenomenon known as highway hypnosis or white line fever. Everybody's done it, whether they like to admit it or not, where they just kind of go on autopilot, right, on the highway. Sometimes they don't pay attention correctly, but sometimes, some people they can flip a switch, right? So it's in the evening, so, maybe it's getting kind of dark. Maybe she's getting a little tired, maybe. And what else was there? Well, climate control, right? That just made it all the more cozy. Seeing as how she wasn't the only one that was having problems falling asleep behind the wheel, that could be another factor that had played in. Let's take a look at some of the faults that happened in the machine category. So she was driving, she was in an automobile, right? And so this particular machine that she was in, again, going back to that tired, I just want to keep hitting that because I'm willing to bet that's exactly what this was. She was, I want to say she was tired, right? And cars, and this happened fairly recently. So cars, I'd be willing to bet, have comfortable seats, I guess you could say. So very easy tired conditions. That's what this is all pointing to. And so another machine that woke her up, that kept this a near miss instead of an accident, was the horn from the 18-wheeler that woke her up. Now, as I've been saying, and let's move on to the man section of the near miss. So, yeah, these are all the different things that I've just been hitting, right? So she was tired, right? Fresh off of work. She probably just wants to go home, take a nap, get some rest, right? Probably had a hard day at work. Again, complacency. That's another condition. She probably had done that a million times, that same route, but this time was just a little bit different. So let's see what kind of measurements were in this near miss. So it could have been a long drive. It could have been pretty far away from her work, which could have made the white line fever or white line hypnosis a lot worse. But in terms of literal measurements, we're talking about speed. So that's about, it's the highway. It didn't say in the near miss how fast exactly she was going, but if it's an interstate or like a highway, I can almost guarantee that it was 70 or 75-ish. And so let's move on to the method, right? So obviously tired. That's my best guess. Mixed with driving fast down the highway, tired and fast does not mix. Ask me how I know. So we've already gone through a lot of the biggest near misses, right, in ranks of how expensive they were. No, but let's do a cost analysis of some of the recordables that were there. So the first recordable that we have says this. So on January 21st, Dick Van Dyke, a welder, was hit by an oncoming vehicle and went unconscious as a result of the crash. He was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Okay, so remember at the beginning when I said that this company was kind of doomed from the start? Yeah, that OIR is sort of reflective of this particular recordable, right? It hasn't even been 1 month of the new year, and you've already got a fatality at your workplace. So normally we have an OSHA direct indirect cost calculator that we use, but due to some complications, I had to outsource for a fatality. So some other sources told me that in a similar case, you're looking at around a cost of the company of around $3 million for a fatality, as if you got good lawyers. So let's move on to our second recordable. Also, if you couldn't notice, Green Team had some fun with these names. Anyways, our second recordable that should say February 16th. Okay, great. February 16th, Bruce Wayne, a plant operator, was rushing down the plant stairs and fell, breaking his ankle. Now, this would cost directly $54,856 to the company, with an indirect cost of $60,341. Grand total, $115,197. So already, second recordable, second month, not good. So on March 4th, Han Solo, a driver, was struck by a box that had fallen on him. His right shoulder possibly needs surgery, and he is currently being given painkillers. So what's the direct cost? Well, see, it's $75,190 with an indirect cost of $82,709, totaling $157,899. So what's the fourth recordable that we have? So recordable number 4. On April 14th, Clark Kent, a welder, slipped on ice within the facility and sprained his ankle. So as a direct cost, we're looking at around $30,487 with an indirect cost of $33,535. Excuse me. As a grand total of $64,022. So you can already see that this company is already in pretty deep, just by these recordables alone. So never mind the near misses. These are recordables that actually happened. So recordable number 5. So up on number 5 on the list, Chewbacca is a sandblaster in Sam's Lumberyard. On the 17th of May, he was officially diagnosed by a medical professional, that medical professional being Dr. Seuss, to have hearing loss in his right ear due to his occupation, that being sandblasting. Now, this was one of the less expensive recordables that they had. So let's take a look at this. In a direct cost of $18,828 with an indirect cost of $20,710. Sorry, I have a stopwatch to sort of help me keep track of time. So with a total cost, $39,538. So with all these recordables, there was a lot of paperwork that needed to be done. So with all of that paperwork being done, I poured over it, and it looked like it was filled out correctly. But don't just take my word for it. Here is an example of one of the documents that was filled out. I could just flip through all the different ones, but we hardly have enough time for it as it is. So as we can see, everything is filled out seemingly correctly, right? They got their full name, street, where they live, and all the information looks as though it's filled out correctly. So they did a very good job with that. Now, down to the big question. Would I buy this company to be a part of Brown LLC? Well, no, absolutely not. I would not touch this company with a 10-foot pole. Absolutely not. See, just the mobile equipment recordables alone were just atrocious. And on top of that, not only were the near misses that they were recording adequately just horrendous and happened way too often, they were also over-reporting their near misses. For example, one near miss that I had to document was an individual who was allergic to red wasps, had a red wasp fly in front of his face, and thought that was a documentable near miss. If you were to hand me that, I would probably laugh at you. Of course, not really, because we have to stay professional or whatever. But all of that aside, comes the next part of the presentation. So we have to work on a wellness program for the health risk assessment. So here are all of the different ailments that our population at Brown LLC is afflicted with, right? And so I need to choose one to take care of. So I chose that I should take care of the felt significant stress, right? 39%. You're probably saying, why would you do that of all things? Well, smoking, most people smoke because they're either addicted or stressed. And they probably got addicted because they thought it could make them not stressed. And less stress means lower blood pressure. So that is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to choose to lower stress. So what is the goal of that program? To reduce stress. Yeah, duh, of course. So what would a program like that look like? Well, here's what I would think. In a perfect world, we'd be able to select an individual or a group of individuals if the company is too large for just one. And this individual needs to be somebody that everybody unanimously likes, or at least just is indifferent towards. So what this individual does is they will survey employees and ask what makes them feel the most stressed during work. Now, these records have to be kept anonymous, and they have to be assured that they're going to be kept anonymous, or else they're just going to feel like their boss is just kind of creeping on them. You know what I mean? So that's also another reason why the individual who does the survey needs to be liked or tolerated, I suppose, with the rest of the employees, because they get that sense of trust that they're going to stay anonymous. And now, these records are going to be reported to upper management in order to make the feasible implementations and changes. So what do I mean by that? So let's say this company is truck trailer manufacturers. So let's say that one of the biggest reasons that they feel stress is it's hot. The ventilation just isn't cutting it, and they could really do for some, if they had some fans, that would be really nice. So, the individuals would take that survey and they would take that up to upper management. And if any management is worth their salt, they would make that change for the workers. Because stressed workers get nervous, they get antsy, and those kind of workers, they make mistakes, and mistakes turn into injuries, and we don't want that. So how are we going to measure the results? So you get the same individuals to do a semi-normal schedule and survey them on that semi-normal schedule. So what does that mean, semi-normal? If they know that the review, or if they know that the survey is going to be on a certain day at a certain time, then they're going to do their best to, I guess, kind of brush it off like it doesn't really matter. So in doing that, making it almost unpredictable, then we can ensure that, so doing that, we can make sure that the individuals aren't just doing it out of complacency. And that concludes the presentation for safety program management. Thank you very much for watching.